I want anyone who's been through what I've been through or anything similar to know this. It's time to take your power back. It's time to find your voice. It's time to start being happy and living again. This isn't about them. It isn't about anyone else. This is about you. Finding your voice, keeping it, and never letting anyone silence it again. It's about reclaiming your power, loving yourself, and living your life to the fullest. Hey YouTube, this is Indigo and welcome to my channel, All Things with Indigo. In my last video, I was talking about depression, anxiety, panic attacks, and how I dealt with them. So I hope this video in my last video is able to bring you guys some type of help, um, understanding, and I hope I'm able to just be of assistance in any type of way to people who deal with stuff, the things that I've dealt with. I wanted to tell my story because it is important, and it is a way for me to share my truth and share my story, and it just was a helping mechanism to me, something that was suggested for me to do actually, and also something I wanted to do. I actually wanted to, and I may still write an autobiography about my life. Yes, I'm 47 years old, but yes, I've seen a lot. So in my last video, I was talking about depression and things, and anxiety and panic attacks and coping mechanisms. So with the depression, like I said, I had a little bit of a panic attack just about a month and a half ago, I want to say. And it's because I was crying for several days um, about regrets. And I also I was talking about, I used to be smaller. Um, I caught a herniated disc, a slip disc on my right side. That was the first thing that started messing me up. It became painful, and yeah, it became it was especially the first day it happened, first week or two it happened. I barely can get out of bed. It was so painful. Um, I want to say like a year later, I had a slip disc happen on my left side, which was more painful because it came with sciatica. It limited me. Both of it, they slipped this limited me, my ability to walk. I used to walk everywhere. I used to walk from one part of Brooklyn to the other part of Brooklyn. That's how much I used to walk. I loved walking, and so when my back started messing up, and it was hard for me to walk a lot, I started taking cabs. I limited my basic walk, not knowing, not in my mind at the time, knowing I'm hindering myself more and more. I did go to physical therapy. Had a wonderful physical therapist named Sean, and he was trying to help me lose the weight that I had gained at that time, you know, and everything. But he left and went some to private and things like that. So now here I am. I'm trying to get back on track, things like that. I am back in physical therapy, doing exercise. I changed my diet because, I didn't even know, it's a lot. So basically, I want to say, yeah, back to the depression and anxiety, stuff like that. So like I said in the last video, those are things you can do. You can, write down how you're feeling, and then, every day you get up and you say today is going to be a wonderful day, and you do breathing exercises, yoga, calming things, and happy things. Do more positive things. Watch more positive TV if you do that. Videos on if you're on social media. Saying beautiful songs. That's another thing. Certain humming helps to soothe you too when you're having anxiety. Certain humming, and I notice like having the sun on your face, things like that, it helps. Now I do want to, so I do want to talk about. I said I was talking about in the last my last video, the regrets I had. Now why I was crying so much. I was crying so much. Let me just make sure my mic is still on. I'm sorry. I was crying so much because a lot of what I endured, a lot of what I my children endured did actually take a toll on my children. It took a toll on my children. Um so let me just say this, right? When I started feeling free after the abuse, being in that abusive relationship, and like the ship was ran um like I was in the army and the sergeant, or someone with authority, right? And my children were too. When I got out of that relationship, and I just let my kids run wild. And and I don't mean in the sense of like they would run in the streets. No, they. But what I'm saying is I would have their school friends come over, popcorn, chips, candy, movie night. I did everything that I thought would make my kids so happy to feel free. And also, there were times when they got a little older to junior high school, things like that. Um, if they didn't want to go to school, I didn't force them. Now, not knowing I'm doing a detriment to my kids, but because it was just like I was just so happy to be free, to be able to do what I want. The kids do what they want. I let them stay home. It became a habit. And then I found out one of my sons, when I was sending them to school, was um not he wasn't going to school sometimes, and he was caught by truant officers. I tried to teach him a lesson by letting him stay with the truant officers, but one of the parents that lived in my building, because her son and my son was together, she picked up my son and things like that. Of course, I punished my kids and stuff like that. Like, I put them on punishment, stuff like that. But it took more of a toll on them than I thought. Um, Later on in life, my kids are in their 20s and 30s now. But later on in life, I realized that, my gosh, I hindered my children because of what I went through, and I just thought it would be okay for them to just be free to do whatever. So it was hard for them to to get back focused, getting back in school, things like that. My youngest son, he had anger problems. He's almost 30. But he had anger problems really bad. I did get therapy for my children. I got therapy for my children when they were, I want to say, in their early 20s. We had family therapy, things like that. They had individual therapy. So, you know, um, and when they got older, they had therapies, for themselves. So thank God for that. But I still dealt with guilt every day. My oldest son, who was with me the longest, I feel suffered the most. Currently, right now, I haven't spoken to him in well over a year. He started dealing with mental issues of his own. He stopped trusting me. He thought he stopped trusting me. He felt like I wanted to harm him. His brothers wanted to harm him. People were after him. Things like that. Now, I would always be able to talk him down from that, but for some reason, um, I don't know. He doesn't. Like I said, I hold a lot of guilt because of these things. When you have children, you never think about the times where you can't help them. You can't fix the problem. And for a long time, I cried about that. I cried about them feeling depressed at times, them, having hard times in life, getting back out there in a job, marking in school and thing, you know, having it hard because I let this man hinder me from so much, from being the greatest me I could be. So sometimes it's overwhelming, but I have to remember to forgive myself because I am not the person I was back then. Back then, I was a young girl with no guidance, no instructions, no rules, no anything, figuring it out by myself. So, I also want to say to those of you who have children and you feel guilty, be, well, let me just say this. Those of you who have children and are still in these abusive relationships, especially young children, I implore you to please get out. I know it's hard because you have convenience, right? It's your fault. Okay. Because you have, it's convenient. I dropped my notes. I had my notes. Because it's convenient to be there with the children in one household with the father or, the stepfather, whoever, you know, and everything is in place, but you have to want to have better for you and your children. You don't want your children to grow up and have resentment towards you or have the issues like the cycle repeating itself or the same issues, be getting with someone who will abuse them or being the abuser, so it's not our fault, it's not your fault for staying with someone for so long. you know Sometimes you think you're making the best decision, the easiest decision, but the hardest decision and the best decision is to try to get out. There are numbers. Now, I know here in New York, there is an information number 311, but in other states, I'm sure they have a 211, 411. They have a number, information number where you can call and get help. They will help you get housing, food, jobs, anything. It's just better to get out now before it's too late, or and to get yourself together. You know, you get your mental health together because mental health is so important because it's a lot of people are dealing with mental health so much these days, so much, you know, and we have to try to look at the things that brought us here, or look at the patterns that is leading up to the mental health problems, you know. So abuse is never okay. I don't condone it. I don't accept it, men or women. It's never okay, so if you can, get out while you can. So, and on that note, I do want to talk about, because I didn't get to that point, to talk about what happened to my monster, which was one of my uncles, my youngest uncle. So he was on drugs. So he was so greedy, so greedy on drugs and things like that. So just, um, he ended up dying because someone gave him fentanyl. Someone gave him fentanyl, and he died right outside on a park bench. But that's not the crazy part, right? The crazy part is I was asked by my mother to help her bury him because yeah. Now, this is before I started going back to therapy, doing all the work and everything. And, you know, um, Yeah, she asked me, she didn't want him to go to what we call Potter's Field. And I guess that's a place where people go when some people say when no one loved them. I say this is a place you go that's void. Maybe no one loved them. Um, unidentified, people who weren't able to be identified, you know. Uh, I guess it's a place where people don't, but because I have so much love for my mother, I love my mother so much. And a lot of times, although I set boundaries with her, there are times I still go revert back to being this little girl who is looking for love from her mother. So, yes, I helped her bury him. I helped her bury him. This was the man that hurt me, molested me, and things like that, and lied about it when I confronted him. Told me I was bugging out, things like that. Yeah, I helped her bury him. He had to be cremated, of course, because I wasn't paying for it. So I went through services to get him cremated, so she can have her. She had to earn and everything and things like that. Yeah, so that's what happened there to him. And people were giving me condolences and things like that, on Facebook, stuff like that. I told them, you don't give me condolences. You don't have to give me condolences. And, I never told anyone. Well, as far as Facebook people to go, my sister knows, my friend's sister, my blood sister knows. Um, yeah. So, and yeah, I will be speaking. Maybe I believe in the next video, I will be speaking about my blood sister, the big sister that I always looked up to because she took care of me with times when my mother wasn't around and it would just be me and her. So I will be touching down on that situation. But for the most part, I pray you guys, these videos find you guys in health, wonderful health. I pray you take it one day at a time. If you're dealing with any type of mental illness, emotional situations, physical abuse, take the time out to love you. It's worth it. Till next time, I see you guys later. Peace and blessings.